Okay, guys, I got a serious update for you. You heard me talk about SEMA and the product roadmap radar. I just caught up with Matt, who's the founder there, and he gave me the latest on what they are building. And my mind is blown. The team at SEMA are taking things to the next level. Built around the core of the product roadmap radar, i.e. code and JIRA analysis, they are building agent orchestration across the product lifecycle. Picture this. You hook up this system same as before, i.e. integrate your repository and your backlog, JIRA today. From that point, SEMA's agent analyzes the codebase and makes suggestions as to what needs to be done next and what could improve, optimize the product. Then, if those tasks are routine, the agent assigns the task to a coding agent, think something like Devin, to complete the minutia, while assigning the human-in-the-loop task to engineers themselves. What you end up with is engineers focusing on building core competency features while AI handles all the rest. If you're not salivating right now, I don't think you fully understand what this means. But here's what I would suggest. Right now, their product is in a closed beta, and SEMA is looking for folks to sign up for their Product Intelligence Advisory Board. This gives you the opportunity to use the product, give feedback, help shape the future of what's built. Oh, and not to mention additional free usage of the product potentially through the end of 2026. So, if that fits your workflow and toolset, you need to reach out today. Go to codestory.co/nextlevel, NEXTLEVEL, and reach out to Matt at SEMA to learn more and join the Product Intelligence Advisory Board. Again, that's codestory.co/nextlevel. This episode is sponsored by Postman. Postman is the world's leading API platform, trusted by 98% of the Fortune 500 and over 40 million developers. Tap into APIs from 18,000 plus companies to power agents that make smarter decisions. Learn more at postman.com/podcast/codestory. This message is sponsored by Melee Search. Today, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone. And Melee Search gives your users the experience they need with lightning-fast performance, full-text search, AI usage, and multimodal capabilities. Melee Search delivers relevant results in less than the blink of an eye. Use the promo code CODESTORY at checkout to get 2 months free at meleesearch.com. That's MEILI search.com. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. Don't settle for less when you can have more, MOR, with Paddle, your merchant of record. Eliminate the headaches of payments, grow your revenue everywhere, and focus on what you do best, building your product. Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. This episode is brought to you by Propel Off. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use Propel Auth. Propel Auth is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, Propel Auth adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with Propel Auth. Check them out at propelauth.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com.
We built this testing pipeline and there was external services involved, and I think it was even a typo or something on the level of a typo in the code. And we still ran the pipeline with the whole data set. We had this 200,000 legal text parsed back then. So instead of sampling, we just put everything to it. We had spent a lot of money for running this pipeline with everything. I don't even remember why we were so stupid. But it was a good test of, okay, also, do I go nuts? Do I go nuts? Because for me, it was the, okay, should I blame people now? Should I have known better? My name is Alex Kihm. I'm the founder and CEO of Poma AI.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their
A
back.
company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
all that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Alex Kihm is solving the chunking problem you didn't know you had to solve AI hallucinations and overconsumption of resources. Alex Kihm just turned 40 and has been into computers for 36 years. He was given his first hand-me-down computer at the age of 4 by his parents, and also grew up with Lego bricks and building things. He's an engineer by training, but eventually switched to econometrics on the big data side. But outside of his professional life, he's married and describes himself as water affectionate. He enjoys swimming, diving, and free diving. In fact, he studied diving during his semester abroad. His free diving is mainly a hobby, but he has deep respect for the professional freedivers of the world. At his original startup, Alex started to dive into LLMs and immediately ran into RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. When he observed the wrong information being returned, along with a ton of resource consumption in the process, i.e. cost, he set out to solve that problem and figured out the solution was in the chunks. This is the creation story of Poma AI.
When I wrote my PhD, which is more than 10 years ago, to be fair, I actually finished it 12 years ago. I dabbled a bit with neural networks. Obviously, you might remember these times. We had a lot of pattern matching. OCR worked well. And you could do stuff with neural networks and machine learning. But what wouldn't really work is like large scale, I would say actual intelligence. More like pattern matching and not actual intelligence. Funny enough, we dropped this avenue and I did the forecasting model very traditionally, 85 predictors, classic hypotheses, but very huge, 6 billion observations. And it outperformed the machine learning approaches there. So that was for me like the start of a big break with this discipline. And later, when LLMs became a thing where you realize there is some sort of intelligence coming up, I was curious, okay, what could we do with it? And back then, which is, let's say, 3 years ago, 2.5, something like this, like just before ChatGPT, like you remember the times like GPT-2, impressive, GPT-3 coming up. And then some people were like, there might be something to it. And I dabbled with it because I have another startup I founded already 22 years ago. I think it was the first German legal tech. It's still running. It's still a very nice platform. We have 10,000 law firms. When ChatGPT came up, can we do something for them? Like they did a domain-specific chatbot, we said. So we said, okay, obviously professionals try to use ChatGPT on autopilot mode and it just comes up with citing cases that were never there and so on. So we said for the lawyers, we need something that is a bit more accurate and more domain specific and fed with real information. So we quickly ran into RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, where you realize that you cannot make the model state the truth by training it more and more. You cannot fine-tune it to knowledge. That's just what some people misunderstood. We always say training is for intelligence, fine-tuning is for style, and then the knowledge has to come from RAG. And we actually made it quite far, and then we had the demo night, like the private demo, just with some friends and interested parties. And then in the end, one question would cost $1 because you had to put so much into the context to really have the whole truth. And then also with the full context, it became convoluted and garbled. And we realized it's actually about the chunks. When you chunk a text like in a very coarse way, and it's impressive how few people actually thought so much about chunking. Everyone just says, okay, there's the text and I just chunk it. I chop it up basically. At some point you go through the text from the beginning to the end, and at some points you need to set cutoffs, which means the text in itself, it loses its spatiality. The only way to find it again, and this is what classic chunking does, is having huge overlaps, including all the neighbors and so on. So we said, let's not dive into this domain-specific GPT building anymore, because we really found something where we can put some serious effort into a more deep tech kind of approach. Like less agency and less selling systems to customers, but really let's go tech. We always dreamt of it. Then it was really this moment, I don't remember it exactly, but it was literally something like I was stumbling in the bathtub and whacking my head on the wall. And then I told my wife, who's also a coder, hey, I got it. I know what we need to try. And what we tried, which is let's put the text into an LLM and let the LLM tell us the text again, like literally verbatim, and make speech breaks so we can detect the text structure. There are more elaborate approaches to chunking, obviously. So there are people who say, for example, for each page, give me a summary, and then they embed the summary as well. Or they say, you have this moving window embedding and so on. But all the LLM-based stuff, there's people who do chunking based on LLMs, but what they do is they always ask the LLM for, let's say, meta-information, summarize what this chapter is about. This always creates a potential bias. So you would imagine we want to have a system that avoids hallucinations, and we introduce potential hallucinations in the process. So we said, keep the text verbatim, but indent it like code. And Poma would repeat the text verbatim, but it would be structured like code. And it sounds so stupid, but it works because LLMs think while they're speaking. We leverage this fact that the next token is predicted by not only the token before, but all the tokens before and so on. And this means when the LLM is repeating the text for us and it's down there deep in the tree of this text, it still knows what the other headings were and what comes next and so on. It's just working so brilliantly. I'm always astonished myself. Once we have this kind of tree, we bring back the implicit spatiality from the text. And that means we can structure the information in a totally different way. And this is why what our customers embed are not chunks anymore, but are what we call chunk sets. So let's say every sentence is a chunk. And then what we give you is through this tree, we traverse it in every potential route to leaf path. And this is like a chunk set. Funny enough, a text can be quite deep, can have more than 10 levels, but that still would mean like a chunk set is like 10 sentences. Just crawling up, or like we crawl up actually to calculate it, but obviously when you read it, it crawls down. You start at the title of the document, then comes the heading, subheading, and then the sentence. This is an information that is so perfectly clear. You know what it's talking about, in which subdomain, and what the actual topic is, and then comes the sentence. So it's worth quite a lot more in terms of information content than having half a sentence that you don't know what it's talking about. And that makes for very great embeddings. And then you get like the exact perfect retrieval. When people embed these, we go around 500 tokens, but we never broaden it. You retrieve several of them. And then we have the second part of our magic. Since it's all traversal paths through the document and they're perfectly codified, we can then fuse them. So in the end, what you get when you have the RAG powered by Poma, what you get back is, at Retrieval is one, we call it a cheat sheet. Just imagine you have someone that says, here's a book, and I have this question. And what you get back as a cheat sheet is basically having each line that is relevant perfectly text marked, and then, cut together, and you only get the text marked lines. That's basically the product.
The first one, I want to dive into the MVP for how you approach it, right? And you touched on it a little bit kind of in the early part of the conversation, and there's a progression, obviously, in how you've built the product to date. But I'm curious about the first version, how long it took you to build to get to that aha point, and then, what sort of tools are you using to bring it to life?
We obviously had so many paths and dead ends, and that's part of the game. So we used, I think, every document processing tool there is. Sometimes I found even some obscure new PDF converter, and then there's several startups, and then there's like services like Unstructured, where you can always try to first ingest your data. And we tried this a lot. Then I tried every chunking method. And so we had like our own little micro ecosystem. We early on programmed, let's say, the hub ourselves. So we have obviously Python based. We had several microservices. In the beginning, it was escalated. So beforehand, I'd worked with Monolith, and you say, let's go microservice. And then you build like 20 services for a simple problem. So then you reconsolidate. This is what we did. But for chunking, to be honest, once we had our approach, let's do chunk sets instead of chunks, and let's go with the indentation and so on. Not much changed ever since, because it's an LLM call, and then obviously retrieve that, then you walk through this tree. This is not many lines of Python. You could optimize it a bit, that's true, and you build a lot around it, but that's quite straightforward. What we did is a lot of fine-tuning stuff. We had our own internal tools where, for example, it's like a constant pattern in the company, that I have like this idea, like Alex hit the wall again and had another shower. And then I try to describe with my hands, I need this tool where I can do this and that. And then for good reasons, My beloved colleagues look at me with stare-eyed, yeah, what? And then I hack together a little prototype that just half visually, half in code describes what I mean. And then we build it together. For example, I have this tool where we have a text, we let it indent, and then I can manually correct it, and then send it straight to fine-tuning, stuff like this. Because using tools for this kind of stuff doesn't really make sense because the approach doesn't exist per se. As the classic data labeling software or stuff that Scale AI does, which I deeply respect, we couldn't use because we have this novel approach of let's indent text. And so we have a lot of custom code for our stuff. And this obviously evolves in quite a maddening way. No, I like it. But the good thing is I have colleagues that work with me for a long time and they know like my approach, but also theirs. We agreed on, we never have this author's ego in our code. The quality should be high, but that still means we might throw it in the freezer. And then it might be de-iced at one point. We pivoted many times from one model to another, from one OEM to another. Let's try with Anthropic. Oh, it works so well. It doesn't work with the new text. Oh, damn, let's scrap it because it has to be robust, and so on. So we went through so many different approaches. Not like super pivot. We still chunk texts because this is what we do. And we know that this is very necessary and impactful. But how we do it in detail and with which models, that can change any minute. And people are ready for that because this is how we get better.
This episode is brought to you by Paddle. As a startup, you face unique challenges to stay competitive. You and your team need to stay focused on your product, not your payments. You need to do more, MOR, and DIY less. With Paddle. Paddle is your merchant of record, becoming the seller of record for your SaaS transactions, enabling your team to focus on what's important, your product. Paddle handles all payment management across multiple gateways and methods, taking ownership of tax liability while remaining compliant with regulations across all markets. The platform handles all aspects of SaaS billing models, upgrades, add-on, trials, and more. Let's look at the results. MOR revenue optimization is built into Paddle and accounts for up to 16% higher conversion rates, reduced payment failures, localized pricing, and churn prevention, recovering 40% of cancellations. Their developer-friendly tools are API first with comprehensive documentation, removing the burden from your engineers. With Paddle as your merchant of record, you'll generate more revenue, find and keep more customers, grow faster, and stay compliant everywhere. So what are you waiting for? Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. Okay, guys, I got a serious update for you. You heard me talk about SEMA and the product roadmap radar. I just caught up with Matt, who's the founder there, and he gave me the latest on what they are building. And my mind is blown. The team at SEMA are taking things to the next level. Built around the core of the product roadmap radar, i.e. code and Jira analysis, they are building agent orchestration across the product lifecycle. Picture this. You hook up this system same as before, i.e. integrate your repository and your backlog, Jira today. From that point, SEMA's agent analyzes the codebase and makes suggestions as to what needs to be done next and what could improve, optimize the product. Then, if those tasks are routine, the agent assigns the task to a coding agent, think something like Devin, to complete the minutia, while assigning the human-in-the-loop task to engineers themselves. What you end up with is engineers focusing on building core competency features, while AI handles all the rest. If you're not salivating right now, I don't think you fully understand what this means. But here's what I would suggest. Right now, their product is in a closed beta, and SEMA is looking for folks to sign up for their Product Intelligence Advisory Board. This gives you the opportunity to use the product, give feedback, help shape the future of what's built. Oh, and not to mention additional free usage of the product, potentially through the end of 2026. So, if that fits your workflow and toolset, you need to reach out today. Go to codestory.co/nextlevel, NEXTLEVEL, and reach out to Matt at SEMA to learn more and join the Product Intelligence Advisory Board. Again, that's codestory.co/nextlevel. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. As a startup, you face unique challenges to stay competitive. You and your team need to stay focused on your product, not your payments. You need to do more, MOR, and DIY less. With Paddle. Paddle is your merchant of record, becoming the seller of record for your SaaS transactions, enabling your team to focus on what's important, your product. Paddle handles all payment management across multiple gateways and methods, taking ownership of tax liability while remaining compliant with regulations across all markets. The platform handles all aspects of SaaS billing models, upgrades, add-on, trials, and more. Let's look at the results. MOR revenue optimization is built into Paddle and accounts for up to 16% higher conversion rates, reduced payment failures, localized pricing, and churn prevention, recovering 40% of cancellations. Their developer-friendly tools are API first with comprehensive documentation, removing the burden from your engineers. With Paddle as your merchant of record, you'll generate more revenue, find and keep more customers, grow faster, and stay compliant everywhere. So what are you waiting for? Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. You went through all the pivots, right? And you went through the fine-tuning, the tweaking, and things of that nature. I'm curious about, to kind of wrap that in a box a little bit, how you quote unquote, built your roadmap. How did you decide what the next most important thing was to build or to tweak or optimize or address with Poma?
When we decided that we really want to crack this chunking with our novel approach, what we actually did is first build really non-shippable code that proves to ourselves that it works. We wanted and did hand in a patent. So we submitted a patent. We got a German one already, and then we got a utility patent. And then we submitted also to the USPTO, where we're now in the second round. And we needed to make sure that the approach works really well, because only then it makes sense to patent it. So first it was more like a research lab kind of approach. And then we decided to do a company with it. The big question was okay, what are we selling? There's so often it happens. I'm very lucky that for me it's the third company now, and I learned a lot in the former companies. And the main thing was, if you offer too broad a product or too much at once, even though you think from your ego, I can do this and that. Yes, maybe, but then you do nothing really well, and also no one knows what you're selling. And this was for us maybe the most important thing. We just before launching, we're still pre-revenue. We have a lot of design partners and the system works, but we are still taking it very carefully and white gloves, and we just even reduce the product even further. For example, before we would say, you give us a PDF and then we do the chunks for you. But luckily, because of many of the talks and calls with the design partners and startups or customers that are now onboarding, they said, guys, but I already have a text. And then we said, why rock the boat? Why enter a part of the market that is not really important for us? If we are the chunking guys, let's really focus on chunking. So it was more like reducing the product further and further and further. That's maybe the most important design vector I've realized this time more than ever before.
Let's switch to team. I'm curious about how you built your team. Probably in the early days, you had some team members, that you started out with, but you had to add folks, I'm sure. Tell me about what you look for in those people and indicate that they're the winning horses to join you.
There's certainly several people who would say I'm the king of nepotism, because it always seems like I employ my friends. But I would counter that I also have friends who don't work for me, don't worry. I like to surround myself by people that inspire me and that I can also respect in every sense. I don't like sycophants or people that are just looking up to me or working to me, but I want people working with me. And I have a lot of these people are with me for 10 years and more. So the decision was really easy. It was more like, okay, my old friend there, he's still in my former company. Do I make him the offer of switching to the new one? Our star coder is actually my wife. She only works for me now, for this project, so for 2 years now. But obviously before, we've been mentors to each other, and we knew very well what our skills are. And I have this with, I think, 6 out of 8 people in the team. I like it when I know what to expect. There's obviously always new people, and we just employed 2 new ones that I also, I have high expectations in terms of, I think it will be really good. Also because we're not so junior. I'm 40 years old, and I think the average age in the company is just a bit less. So for a startup, we are quite mature in terms of people. And obviously, at this point, you have a certain network. For example, my old co-founder from my former company, where he was the CEO and I was the CTO, I just onboarded him as my head of strategy, finance, and legal. So now we flipped the deck, and now he works for me. Now we have the super tech-focused company. The one before was a fintech. I have this super tech-focused company, and I need someone that I can trust that covers the business side. Boom. He just signed. And I love this. It's always very quick. I love this calling someone, hey, I have a new gig for you. Yeah, I love it. Let's do it. Literally, most of the calls were like this.
This episode is brought to you by Propel. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use Propel Auth. Propel Auth is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, Propel Auth adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with Propel Auth. Check them out at propelauth.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com. This episode is sponsored by Search. In today's digital landscape, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone, and you need a user experience that drives customer satisfaction. You need Search. Search has lightning-fast performance, returning answers in less than 50 milliseconds. Yeah, you heard that right. Faster than the blink of an eye. The open-source AI search engine is plug-and-play, so you can get up and running in minutes with smart presets, allowing you to start searching through your data with zero configuration. Search utilizes advanced full-text search and AI, ensuring your results are ultra-relevant with semantic depth. It's multimodal, supporting images, videos, and audio, along with being federated, i.e. searching across multiple data sources. And it's developer-friendly. Whether you're building a content-rich website or enterprise application, Search delivers the experience your users expect and deserve. For a limited time, CodeStory users can get 2 months free. Use the promo code CODESTORY, all one word, at checkout. Just go to MailySearch.com and get started today. That's MEILI search.com. So as you step out on the balcony, look across all that you've built thus far with Poma. What are you most proud of? There's a lot to be proud of here, a lot of things that you're cracking, but I'm curious what you're going to say.
It's the first time that I do something so deep tech that it qualifies for a patent, and that actually most people, I wouldn't say I like it that they don't understand it at first. That sounds a bit arrogant, but I like it that apparently the depth of the value is so deep that there must be something to it. It's not like selling some stuff online. Don't get me wrong. We all need our e-commerce, but I understand this in a minute. And if something so profoundly impactful, I mean, it saves between 50 and 80% of energy for the same question at more accuracy. And I like it that we don't do it by just cutting something short, but by something that is so elaborate that it qualifies for a patent. I am honestly proud of that.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
We built this testing pipeline and there was external services involved. And yeah, what we did is we had, I think it was even a typo or something on the level of a typo in the code. And we still ran the pipeline with the whole data set we had this 200,000 legal text parsed back then. We ran the whole pipeline with this typo. So instead of sampling, we just put everything to it. We had spent a lot of money for running this pipeline with everything. I don't even remember why we were so stupid. But it was a good test of, okay, also do I go nuts? Do I go nuts? Because for me it was should I blame people now? Should I have known better? And everyone was like trembling. Now we really screwed it. And will Alex kill himself or us, or what will happen? And we said, you know what, guys, this time the order of magnitude is a bit high, but you know what? I've learned one thing. If someone blows anything up, never ever fire the guy. Keep him, because he will never do it again. And the same holds for me. And the same holds when I can deal with this mistake now. They will trust me that I'm not short-fused. And said, okay, you know what? Wipe the slate, get some new money, and let's do this again with a 1% sample, please. And then we do this at 100%. So we all learned.
Let's move forward then. This is really exciting. I'm super jazzed as an engineer and as someone who understands RAG and chunking about what you've built and what you've accomplished. What does the future look like for Poma, for what you're building and for your team?
So what we're building is currently our demonstrator, because Obviously, the algorithm itself works, and we're starting to onboard companies who want us to include it in their pipeline because it's quite easy. But what we need for new people to get interested is some sort of visualization. And it's maybe the biggest challenge I've ever had. We are by design an invisible product. If I explain chunking to my mom, you can always do these hacking motions like in the kitchen or something. But otherwise, it's quite hard to visualize chunking. And especially to visualize our stuff. We at least have the tree, that's a nice thing, but visualizing what we're doing to also explain vis-a-vis what others are doing or what the conventional approaches are, more to say. It's not really people who or companies who chunk. So this is something I'm personally leading this project, and it takes up most of my time for now. And also with the team now, we will build this demonstrator that really makes it sexy to think about chunking and look at chunks and say, this is beautiful. And that's a high bar to get there. So we are totally focused on that. For a backend company, we now have an interim front-end focus even, which is challenging because iOS developers always have this, they still have a foot in front end. You can imagine our Python backend guys, they don't. Now we need to overcome this. And there again, I have this old colleague 10 years ago. I call him, man, I need you for front end. Yeah, okay. He just signed on last night. So we do this front end stuff to visualize what we are doing. That's like the very big thing that's coming now. And then we can reach out and also with the team, imagine if like account executives, they find customers, they show them the demo. And if that works, we get into this flywheel of going out with the demo, showing people with their text, by the way. So they can paste like their sample document and see what it would change for them. So I want to make it very tangible, like not abstractly, get my software and your ROI gets up by X. That doesn't make much sense in most of the cases. But if you say, give me your text, I show you, this is what comes out now, this is what comes out with us, everyone gets it. And this is tough to visualize. But I like the challenge and I think we are almost there.
Alex, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
There is my dad, to be honest. In many ways, people would say there was maybe a bit old school or not super, or let's say not very modern approach. And you could frame it negatively, but I frame it positively. He always said you just need to do everything yourself. But what he meant is you need to understand everything that's going on end to end. And some people say it's wrong, but I think in a young company, I like to understand everything. That doesn't mean I do everything. But if I'm not aware of what happens in finance or in legal parts of the product or in tech, obviously, but I need to understand it end to end, and it always helped me. So I always measure a bit like do I have things under control with the TIS approach? And then in terms of work style, I have to say the early pre-erratic Elon Musk. I have to honestly admit it. I mean, by now it's a different story. But in the beginning, this whole work yourself there and understand it a lot, crunch it. And also in terms of team, have rather small teams of super concentrated superstars that also like working with you. Then that's certainly a source of inspiration. And I sometimes measure if that happens. And also I have to say there is these anti-person, not persons, but approaches, like when big corporates, and then you have these situations where you realize, okay, it's not a person that is anti-inspiring me, but a setup. And this combination kind of gives me the compass.
Alex, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world, and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit in a couple different ways?
If they already built the greatest thing, I'm not sure they would listen. I would tell them, never fly too close to the sun. If you burn yourself, you might crash into the next rain, and after rain comes sunshine. And when the sun is back up again, don't throw away the umbrella. Simple as that. But I think it's very abstract, but you get it. There will be ups and downs, and always there will be ups and downs. And it's not this old, it's not about you fall, it's about how you stand up. But it's more, don't throw away the umbrella once things are running. Expect the next rain, but you can also know that afterwards there will be sunshine. But next time you have the umbrella, so at least you're not wet.
I love it. I think that's fantastic advice. Well, Alex, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of Poma.
Thank you.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.